searching the bishop, and
Special thanks to my patrons for supporting my channel. So the second season of Hazbin Hotel just wrapped up on Amazon Prime, and I have mixed feelings. Now right away, is season 2 better than season 1? Yes, I will unambiguously say that. I found it entertaining and compelling more often than the first season. But there are still some storytelling choices crippling it, and you know I gotta talk about them. Once again though, I want to emphasize that I don't hate this show, and this isn't a hit piece on it, on VivziePop, or on the fanbase. I know a lot of people clicked on this to hear me complain about the series, and I promise I'll get to that, but if you're a Hellaverse fan and you're watching this, thank you for being willing to
Hellaverse fan. That's the first time I've heard that phrase.
You guys are really creative and, in general, a lot nicer than the internet gives you credit for. When I dig into this season, I'm not trying to roast it. I want to try to genuinely understand what it's going for and how I feel it can be improved. Now, the season has 8 episodes, which were released 2 at a time on a weekly basis across 4 weeks. To mirror how my opinions of the show shifted over time, I've broken this video down similarly. Also, I'm not going to be covering everything that happens this season. I just want to focus on the core of the show and see what works and what doesn't. Let's get started then with...
New Pinches and
First 2
Storyteller.
episodes, decent start to the season actually. Episode 1, New Pinches, focuses on the aftermath of the battle at the hotel, and everyone reeling from the deaths of both Sir Pinches and Adam. Now that Charlie has successfully defeated Heaven's forces and proven there's a way to kill angels, sinners are flooding her hotel not for redemption, but for a chance to exact vengeance for the exterminations. Over the course of this episode, she puts her foot down and recommits to her pacifism. She is only going to focus on trying to turn people good to earn them a spot in heaven. Sadly, this does not prove popular to the denizens of hell, and there's a mass exodus from the hotel. Her struggle is made even harder when Vox does end up telling the sinners exactly what they want to hear. Oh yeah, the TV headman Vox is the big antagonist of the season. He appeared quite a bit in season 1, but when I reviewed it, I don't think I made mention of him, mostly because he ultimately didn't really do that much.
The V's were practically just background noise.
But I realized he was a fan favorite. But I would have preferred him to have, you know, a place in the story. All I'm saying is there's only room for one TV man in my life. Luckily, Vox does have an actual place in the story this time around. He and his partners, collectively known as the V's, hatch a plan to outright depose Heaven and rule as gods themselves. Okay, that's something. There is a running joke that started to get on my nerves.
Is it true this hotel is recruiting a hellish army? And should I divorce my wife?
Did you just laugh at that? If not, don't worry, maybe you'll laugh the next 4 times the episode goes back to this gag. Overall though, this episode...
It's just the one time, so I'll just let it slide.
I feel like it's just setting things up for the rest of the season without a whole lot happening in it specifically. But whatever, let things get put into place. Now episode 2, I actually really liked. The previous episode focused on Hell's response to the events of the last season. Now, we're seeing Heaven's response. Specifically, we're seeing the response not only to Adam's death, but Sir Pinches' unexpected redemption and appearance in Heaven. This is something we saw at the end of the first season, and Charlie heard the news at the end of the previous episode.
Yeah, just out of nowhere thrown at her.
But the Speaker of God herself intervenes and allows
when God became canon.
The whole story, including the life he lived and the sin that he committed. When he was on Earth, he saw a grisly murder happen and stayed silent out of fear, allowing the killer to go on to claim 5 more victims. This inaction was the sin that condemned him to hell, and he regrets it terribly. But his action to save someone else's life during the battle in the last season has undone his sin, and so landed him in heaven. And this changes everything. Sarah had justified the regular exterminations because they were sinners and therefore completely beyond redemption. They had their chance on Earth, now they could be generalized as totally evil. Pinches' story collapses her entire worldview, and she now grapples with the recognition she's done something truly monstrous. How can she possibly hope to repay this transgression? And this is exactly the question I want this narrative to be asking. This whole episode I was thinking to myself, yes, oh my god, it's actually going in the direction I want it to. I could feel the weight of the situation. Heaven was already fearful of Hell retaliating after finding out they have a way to kill angels. Now they realize Hell also has a casus belli against them. Until they can work out how to even begin a diplomatic approach to reconcile, heaven goes into lockdown. This is a really grave situation, and the way that the scene unfolds, you can feel how serious it is. Lute, of course, is still hellbent on violence.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Adam, who eggs her on to act independently of Sarah's orders.
Which doesn't... The end result is literally nothing happens, which is just frustrating. Like, she has, like, the baller song and everything, and quite literally appears near the end for no apparent reason other than just because she's competent, I guess. And afterwards, it's just gone. Talk about, like, building up the third villain, quote-unquote, to the series. Like, she's supposed to be, like, a major character, yet she barely does anything.
Also, she has an actually pretty catchy song.
Hey, agrees with me.
Meanwhile, Sir Pentious is being shown around heaven, but he's having a hard time fitting in. He misses his friends at the hotel, and the culture shock is getting to him. And I think this does add an interesting complication to the central conceit of the show. The whole point of the series is redeeming sinners. The sinner has been redeemed, and yet, capital P Paradise isn't, at least from his perspective. Again, this is exactly what I want the show to.
He was mainly in hell, so in the end he kind of like went to heaven, achieved his paradise, but ultimately this paradise feels more like a prison. What was it, that infamous phrase, I was in hell looking at heaven. This is pretty much it in Sir Pentious' eyes. He's in hell while he lives a hell while being in heaven. Pretty accurate, actually.
To dig into. Another benefit I think this episode has is its setting. Admittedly, when the previous episode opened the season on, you know, the things the franchise is known for.
Who wants to come stay at the Hazbin Hotel with me?
I was kind of thinking to myself, oh god, here we go.
Yeah.
Episode 2 takes place in heaven. By design, the series cannot fall back on its usual shtick, and it's a breath of fresh air. I legitimately really like this episode. Who even wrote it? Oh. Vivian Medrano wrote this episode herself, and it's one of the only 2 in the season that she wrote herself. This one. The one that I believe is the best one. Oh. Well, you know what? I give Medrano shit here and there, but what kind of critic would I be if I didn't acknowledge the times where she actually did really good work?
I mean, to be fair, this is basically like kind of like criticizing George Lucas in a sense. Sure, the guy made some fatal flops in his franchise, but come on, man. When he credit where credit is due, he did make a magnum opus to some degree. Till he got fucked by Disney.
Anyways, this first week got my attention, and I felt genuinely really interested to see where it went next. Okay, no, never mind. The show got bad again. Let me jump ahead to stuff I actually liked in episode 4. It's a deal. In this episode, the show pulls something off that can be tricky to do. In my video about the first season, I did praise Alistair as an element I enjoyed, but I have to admit, over time I was starting to worry. His whole appeal was his mystery. But the thing about mystery boxes is that sometimes there's nothing inside. And so when I heard we were getting...
Or more so the prize is just underwhelming.
...story this season already, I worried, oh no, is that going to be the case here? But it's not. Episode 4 reveals to us that while he was alive, Alistair used to be a serial killer, and he made a deal not for glory in this life, but in the afterlife. He basically wanted to continue his homicidal rampage for all eternity. I have to admit, normally I'd roll my eyes at a they just like killing people motivation, but the fact that he has this level of foresight and dedication to the bit makes it work for me. He is actually genuinely fucked up. So the reveal here is worthwhile in its own right. But also just as importantly, the mystery leads to another one. See, to secure his power, he struck a deal with Rosie the Cannibal Queen from the first season, which is itself another interesting twist. In exchange for being made the strongest sinner in hell, he's been made a puppet on a string, much like he's done with Husk and Nifty. In fact, he tries to quit the hotel in this episode, but Rosie turns out to be the one who directed him to join the hotel in the first place, and so she orders him back. He's chafing under her control. However, he begins to hatch an idea.
I can fix my own problems.
I like that shot there. It's a good implication of where his thoughts are going. Alistair proceeds to pick a fight with Box, which he actually loses. So he signs himself up
Shockingly.
in Vox's custody as a prisoner in exchange for Vox agreeing to not lay his hands on Charlie. So now the question is, what's he up to? What is his plan? And I'm invested enough to see that. And speaking of, we do get their backstory together. Vox had looked up to Alistair and proposed working together, and Alistair had laughed right in his face, calling him a fool for wanting to actually share power with anyone. This puts some of his previous behavior in new context.
Trust me. Trust me. Trust us. No, I meant to say us.
Also, we get some fun action, we get to see what it looks like when Sinner Overlords really battle, and I think this is a cute character moment here.
Hey, have you ever heard of a blobfish?
What?
Check this out. How cute.
Apparently, I also found out recently that blobfishes don't look like that under the water. They look like normal fishes. It's just when they're taken from the deep ends where they reside, they just blow it up and look like that afterwards. Weird, right? I always thought they looked like that normally, but no, they look like normal fish when they're in their normal environment. Just when they're taken out of it, their faces and bodies just blow it up a bit and give them that weird human-esque face. Didn't even know that, but yeah, that's a fun fact.
Cute is that?
Why are you like this?
I don't know why, that's really endearing to me. So that's all pretty positive so far. Why did I open this section so negatively then? Well, I'll answer that question with another one. What the fuck happened to Charlie? I'll tell you what happened. A disastrous miscalculation in her writing. So the V's have launched this massive media smear campaign against her, right? She can clearly see this unfolding, and it upsets her. Of course it does. What is her idea to fix it? Hey, I will invite them into the hotel and show them how we can redeem people. Even though I don't have any readily available evidence of my success, and I
Other
believe
than a
they will
word.
act in good faith and have a change of heart.
Like, imagine the Charlie from the pilot was just like, don't take any shit from demons, you know, actually stood up for herself, was actually ballin', was an actual boss, and then we get to this one, which feels more like a dumbass in comparison. Like, even season 1, shockingly enough, wasn't this dumb. Yet season 2 felt like Charlie just lost several thousand IQ points to become the closest equivalent to a dumbass.
I don't think I have to explain why that's such a horrible idea. And even the show itself agrees with me, because basically everyone around Charlie says, hey, I think it's a bad idea to throw open our doors to the influential media overlord who openly antagonizes us.
The worst part is that she's trying to do this while proving redemption is possible. You know, something that she just got a word of the fact that Sir Pentious is in heaven and has never seen him until the little end of the season. Bitch didn't even go so far as to confirm if he's actually in heaven. She just took the word of Emily at face value and was just like, yep, they're redeemable. Didn't even confirm for it. Didn't even get to call Sir Pentious and, you know, have a talk with him and even let him come down to hell. It's just like so distant communication and no evidence for it. It's just like, sure, yeah, fine. How exactly am I going to prove redemption that way? I don't know. That's even more frustrating. It's not the fact that she's just so positively trying to prove it. It's just the fact that she's so dumb. She's trying to prove almost nothing without any, like, evidence, let alone communication or reason to explain it. It's just, believe me. Believing people can only go so far.
Angel Dust in particular is horrified to see Vox, who is a close associate to Angel's horrifically abusive boss. And Charlie's response is, oh hey, speaking of Angel Dust, you'd be a perfect candidate to get redeemed right now in front of the camera. And then it doesn't work because they don't actually know the exact reason why Pentious even got redeemed. And the whole thing goes just as poorly as you would expect.
I mean, they do go out of their way to kind of like have, what was it? What was the word? Like a conclusion of the fact that Sir Pentious beat his demons, so Angel has to beat her demons. And they revealed the whole thing with like, oh, he was a killer of some sorts, like he murdered his father, I think, was it? And afterwards it was kind of like, can you redeem a murderer is one thing. Because Sir Pentious' backstory, at least from what we got from the previous episodes, was like, okay, so the guy felt guilty, felt responsible, and his actions led him to sin. But what about a person who truly doesn't, in fact, you know, deserves said redemption. Someone who actually committed something so heinous it's impossible to redeem. You know? That was an interesting point, but again, like I said, this needs forward and backward communication between Sir Pentious and the others, because how the hell are they going to redeem someone else if Sir Pentious was the first redeemed sinner? It's like, how do you do that afterwards? How?
Vox compiles it all into a completely one-sided attack against the hotel, which causes a lot of people to leave it entirely.
Except for that one guy that's background noise, for the most part.
True. I've seen some arguments that this is supposed to be Charlie's character flaw, that she has to overcome this. But this is going way too far. She's supposed to be naive. She's not supposed to be stupid.
True,
Episode 3 of the season, an excruciating experience. I've seen even genuinely committed fans saying that she was not this bad in the first season.
Yeah, like I said, she was a bit gullible at the very least, but still positive and still went out of her way to, even though it took her some time, use her powers properly to make power moves against Adam and everyone else. And now all of a sudden she feels like even less like that. Even worse than that.
Like, imagine an alternate framing of this plot beat. Maybe Vox and his crew show up at their door demanding to run an investigation. If Charlie turns them away, it'll look really bad. So in the heat of the moment, she would think she can maybe give them a presentation good enough to stem the criticism and maybe, just maybe, change their minds. Then the rest of the episode could play out exactly the same and end up just as disastrous. It would read as Charlie overestimating her ability to handle a bad situation being thrust on her, which I'm sure everyone can relate to, rather than her actively choosing to initiate the bad situation herself. It's very, well, frustrating. And I'm not done. All of that unfolds in episode 3, and episode 4 shows her trying to deal with the fallout. Fox Tech had specifically edited the footage to make her look bad. How does she decide to solve this? Why, it's simple. She'll go back onto their channel and give a live interview that they can't edit.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact that you...
That is like the funniest thing ever. Let's just go live and give them more footage that they can edit and post. Man, they really don't know how television and everything works on hell, huh? That is crazy.
You can still edit clips from an interview.
It feels like he was just waiting for me to say something awful, like that I think sinners deserve the extermination because they're bad people.
Take a wild guess. What happens next?
I mean, yeah, she pretty much said it live.
You know, who blanks out in front of the cameras? Okay, in Charlie's defense, she wasn't actually in the hotel when Nifty's camera shyness was discovered last season. She probably didn't know. Charlie does help her overcome it though on stage, and Nifty then proceeds to sing about all the nasty messes and vermin in the hotel that she gets to clean up. Yeah, I got nothing for that one, Charlie. Oh, and it gets...
Well, she did have like that segment in Japanese, also some other segments that pretty much tell her that even though it's a mess, she does believe in her goal and everything, which is kind of like weird because if you're gonna go out of your way to have it in Japanese, why don't you translate it or something like that? It's bizarre, right? Like, she has like a genuine moment in area that she pretty much reflects on the fact that, hey, we're assholes and bad people, but we can be redeemed. And I think the dream itself feels very plausible. No, it's just a quick segment from a Japanese song. Or Japanese sing-along, I guess. It's like every correct step they make, they fumble backwards. It's crazy.
Even better. So like I said, as part of Vox's report, Charlie volunteers to redeem someone on the spot. And that person is chosen to be Angel Dust because he's been making good progress. And she tries to make him do all kinds of good deeds, which obviously doesn't work. Even trying to sacrifice himself to save someone, the same way Pentious did, doesn't work. And then she realizes...
Okay, we have been trying to recreate Pentious's redemption, but maybe what he did redeemed his own sin.
Yeah, there we go.
It didn't work for Angel. All we need to do is have Angel act against his sins.
Wait. She is just now realizing that's a key to redemption. We are in season 2 of Redeeming Sinners, the show, and Charlie is only...
To be fair, they just kind of threw it at us, like, out of nowhere, and then just, like, told everyone just deal with it. Which I guess is fair enough, but, like, come on, man. You had, like, one job. And if anything, the whole thing with Vox just made it weirder.
Right now thinking they should have people specifically try to atone for the particular sin that sent them to hell. Was this not the very first thing that crossed her mind? Yeah, this week's episodes kind of killed the budding optimism I had. Here, let's just move on and see where things go next. God, I hope next week isn't as bad. Okay, things seem to be getting on the right track again. Episode 5, Silence,
Somewhat.
begins with Vox capitalizing on his victory over Alistair to draw more people to his circle. And it's working. He's becoming the unofficial leader of Hell and agitating the masses. Charlie still insists if they can just get Heaven to speak honestly, it'll calm tensions. And luckily, Heaven does reach out again to try and offer a peace gesture. Though at first she seems really dismissive of them, and I was screaming at my screen, "This is what you've been waiting for! Don't you dare go through that door!"
Wait! You're here!
Thank you! However, at the same time, Vaggie decides to ask Charlie's father Lucifer to intervene on their behalf. Both of these efforts
Which is
end up
an interesting
backfiring
change.
spectacularly, for reasons I'll describe in a moment. And at the end of this episode,
I agree with the Angels one. That was an interesting twist. I'll give credit where credit is due. Like, Guy does have a fair point, and that is a great rally against the Angels. Lucifer, on the other hand, just feels like for some reason, phoned in that we didn't even need. Like, come on, man. The poor guy practically had... Season 1's finale had him do way more than that, and then afterwards, he just kind of did nothing. Also, they created this weird rule where he can't smite sinners. Like, I think he could at the very least injure or imprison them somewhere else in hell, right? You think, okay, maybe he doesn't have the power to kill them like exorcists and other angels do, but you think he'd still have some kind of power or control to pretty much, show his authority and power? Like, you'd think Lucifer would be capable of doing that. And it's like, nah, he's just there, which just pretty much makes his power non-existent and his purpose pretty much unnecessary.
episode, Vox actually declares open war on Heaven. And this triggers another mass exodus from the hotel. Okay, this is like the third time in 5 episodes that we've seen a bunch of people leaving the Hazbin Hotel because of Vox's victory.
Come to think of it, how exactly are there so many people in the hotel? Except for that one random guy in the background, it's like so many people go in and out, which is interesting, but also odd.
Do they even have anyone left? All right, they have like one guy in the next episode. At this point, it's really funny how many times you see people ditching the hotel en masse. Meanwhile, in episode 6, we have Husk also getting fed up with the hotel and trying to quit. Like Alistair did 2 episodes ago. Guys, maybe it's a bad sign they're already starting to repeat plot points. At the same time, Vox is pressuring the remaining Overlord holdouts to join his side, and he starts construction of a massive superweapon that will have the capability to take on Heaven. Okay, so good things. By this point, I'm comfortable saying that this season has a much clearer sense of rising action. Stakes are escalating, things are getting more and more intense as the season goes on. I like that. The story as a whole feels more focused. However, while I'd been excited to see more of Heaven's side of the story and how they plan to reach out to Hell, the payoff there is disappointing.
My vote is that we should apologize. Maybe with some gift baskets?
I mean, who doesn't love gift baskets?
Right?
Okay, maybe this isn't going to be as interesting of a plot thread as I thought. And the thing
It's
is,
just
clear the other
pointless, I
characters
guess.
know this is stupid, but they play along. It's the same thing as last week with Charlie, when people kept saying she was acting foolish, but she went ahead anyway. Truth be told, the reaction from Vox is the most reasonable thing I've seen anyone in this series say so far.
Exactly.
You're apologizing for genocide with gift baskets?
Guy's got a perfect
I have
point.
to say, now that I think about it, there is a strong parallel between this moment and Charlie's attempts at redeeming others. Charlie had been eager to have sinners repeat token gestures that she saw good people do, like working in soup kitchens or helping old ladies cross the street. In her mind, These are things that good people did, and therefore, doing them turns you into a good person. But that's not enough, is it? It's not a substitute for undoing whatever harm you actually did. In the same way, heaven is making a token gesture that is insultingly superficial compared to the sheer scope of their crimes against hell. It's actually an interesting way to interrogate the meaning of redemption and atonement, except there's a problem with it. These people are starting way too far back to be reasonable. I'm still struck by the fact that Charlie didn't think to start her process with, hey, let's focus on the sin that sent you to hell. Or at least that was a conversation to have in season 1. The fact that it takes her until season 2 to think this up is absurd. The same thing with the goddamn gift baskets. Again, Sarah and Penchus are visibly thinking to themselves, this is a bad idea, but they go through with it anyway. They are so far behind where a reasonable person would be in this scenario that it weakens the thematic through line. Sarah's over here grappling with the fact she ordered the deaths of people who might have been redeemed. She's overcome by the horror of her actions and the implications for herself and her heavenly authority. Again, fascinating internal conflict. And then Charlie struggles to move past kindergarten level morality. I feel like I'm waiting around for the protagonist of Hazbin Hotel to catch up to an adult mindset, and it blunts any kind of point the show wants to make. On another positive note though, something I legitimately didn't expect to say this season is, I actually like Vox now. Mostly
Nah, I think he's been ruined. Like, before he was like an interesting team player with the other two. Like, they were kind of complementing each other like a whole gang. Now all of a sudden he feels like a easily manipulatable nepo baby. It's like, it's insane how much they ruined him. Like, you'd think he'd be good, but man, fucking pathetic loser. Some of the scenes with the angels and everything were good, but man, he really hit rock bottom.
Because he's become the most
really hit rock bottom
character in the show. That sounds like a backhanded compliment, but he's actually fairly clever. He wins over the masses by telling them what they want to hear, but for the holdouts he needs on his side, he's able to switch his tactics without resorting to open force.
And when the first shot fires, whose side do you want to be on? Heaven's? You think they won't come for you? The one that supplied the princess with the knife that killed their leader? Help me protect hell, Carmilla, and I'll help you protect them.
What also makes him compelling is that Vox kinda has a point. To be sure, he's only truly interested in his own power and success, but when he talks about the way that their souls have been abused by heaven, he's not wrong. There's a reason this rhetoric proves so compelling to the sinners. He even invokes the name of Lilith, Charlie's mother who tried to rally sinners against heaven's cruelty, and positions himself as her successor. Of course, Charlie is appalled by this.
My mom never wanted violence. She empowered sinners. Peaceful protest. There was no blood.
Yeah.
And again, easily could have had that with Sir Penchus improving redemption. Like, you could have had like an awesome plot point between whether or not you considered to be a sinner and removed indefinitely for the rest of eternity, or actually seek redemption and go up to the heavens where you can finally rest peacefully. It's an interesting dynamic, and they do neither of them. It's just like Vox just gains all that power to basically fight heaven and just loses it in an instant, and Charlie just keeps on proving her incredible incompetence that makes me wonder why exactly she's even the main protagonist at some points. Like, come on, man. If anything, Vaggie proved herself way more effective than her. Fucking Alistair had more efficiency than her. Like, no words.
Yeah, they should peacefully protest their souls being damned for eternity. How would that even work? Anyways, back to Vox. Granted, he's only got this massive success by exploiting his victory over Alistair, a victory that Alistair basically handed to him for unknown reasons so far. And he is quite vulnerable to being needled by Alistair across the whole season. His words are causing Vox to distance himself more and more from the other Vs.
But like I said, that's like so easily manipulative. Like, you think the guy who quote-unquote found Alistair inspiring would take some pages off of his book, so when he tries to manipulate him, he'd be like, I'm very perplexed at the reason for why you would surrender to me. And rather than, like, you know, letting him win, he'd be like, let's play this out, like actually think that maybe Alistair has some kind of hidden agenda and doesn't allow for him to do anything. Heck, you might even have him be extra clever by actually remembering the whole ordeal with with the deal that he made with Charlie Morningstar to not lay a hand on her. He'd be like, on the moment he's about to lay his hands on her shoulders, he's like, wait a second. That would technically speaking break the deal. I can't do that. So he's just gonna like go out of his way to cross his hands, and he's just gonna be patiently waiting. And then when he secures his victory, Alistair's still like, there's no way you're this competent. He'd be like, I have outgrown you, old man. But no, it's like Alistair just manipulates him so easily. It's not even manipulation, he's just poking him with a stick and he just does what Alistair wants him to do. It's crazy.
But still, I think Vox is an effective villain. Heck, he even managed to
What?
Lucifer. Oh yeah, I should probably touch on that. Lucifer loses all his aura this week. He was something of a goofball last season, but he could definitely throw his weight around if need be. I mean, he's the one who basically saved the day in the climactic battle. But it turns out he is actually physically incapable of harming sinners. It's part of his punishment in hell. But at Vaggy's behest, he still attempts to intimidate—
which is kind of weird, which you'd think, again, harm maybe not, but like injure them or like imprison them, that technically speaking still works, Fine, you can't harm them by any means, but chaining them up, sending them into the deeper parts of hell, or maybe even purgatory outside of hell, you think that'd be an option. Nah, he's just completely powerless now. I guess they tried to nerf him so that he isn't so powerful as to basically be used against sinners, because he really is like the ultimate one-up against all of them. But like, the rule is illogical, but again, you'd think he'd have something that allows for him to at the very least administer some kind of power, like banishing Vox and the others, sinners rioting and essentially creating this mass distortion in hell where they want him to be back. Could have been interesting, but no. And again, he's just there at this point. Even worse, he gets used like a little battery for a super weapon. Talk about pathetic.
Vox and get him to back down from antagonizing Charlie. And Vox immediately calls his bluff in front of the entire crowd. Great. Admittedly, this is more of a personal nitpick. We'll see how he's faring by the end of the season, I guess. There's also a big twist.
Absolutely nothing.
6. Valentina orders Angel Dust to a motel to service a client. Surprise, it's Vox who's in for a regular check-in? That's right. Vox has hypnotized Angel Dust to be a spy for him for so long. All the way back during season 1 even. Angel Dust has been feeding him information all this time. And
this one I actually kind of liked as a reveal. It's like, Valentino is physically abusing him while owning him, but it's Valentino who, works with Vox and uses him to his own gain. And again, that shows like how powerful the V's are together as a unit. Valentino has some people that are quite literally under his control and everything, but it's like Vox who does the bigger plays here and there that makes things much more interesting. It's cool, but unfortunately they pretty much show like Vox wants to be the main center stage, and it's like, man, it's sad.
And I don't know how I feel about this. I'm not concerned about whether or not this was foreshadowed. That's not my worry here. I'm worried about what this means for Angel's character. This is a cliffhanger here, so I want to see where this goes in the next couple of episodes. But Angel Dust is one of the more complete characters in this series, and I really hope we don't just erase a lot of the ground he's covered because he was mind controlled for it. But also this twist feels muted because of how it was supposed to be set up for us. Fox gloats, how did you think I was able to be one step ahead of Charlie all this time? When like, I don't know, I feel a particularly bright border collie could outwit her.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fallout from how she'd been acting in episodes 3 and 4, really.
I guess that is one way to point it out. It's like, when you make the character so dumb that essentially revealing a character that was being mind controlled and secretly manipulated to, to spy on them, it's like kind of a, bad sign. Also, come to think of it, they also had Serpentius in season 1 to do that, right? That was the main reason he was sent there, to spy on them. And he, for some reason, just... They completely nullified the reason for why Sir Pentious had to go to the Hazbin Hotel in the first place. Damn. They really just contradicted themselves. I just remember that. Sir Pentious was literally sent there to spy on them, and now he's completely, like, drawn out of that entire situation because Angel was spying on them in the first place. It's like, man, I have no words for that. Or did they, like, actually show, like, Vox, quote-unquote, spying on them? Using more so... Maybe they did try with Sir Pentious first, and then they manipulated Angel into doing it afterwards, since they failed with that. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Vox didn't need
Hope
to
they
be
bring
one
it up
step
in the
ahead of
future.
her. Charlie actively undermined herself. If anything, the fact he needed Angel Dust to help him with this makes Vox seem less clever and scheming.
Exactly.
A similar effect happens with Charlie and Vaggy's relationship drama in these 2 episodes. After Vaggy tries to get Lucifer to intervene and it goes poorly, Charlie is upset with her for going behind her back. Vaggy points out she only did that because Charlie is endangering the hotel. So
And pretty much shooting herself in the foot.
An episode later, they do make amends. Vaggy apologizes for what she did, and Charlie kind of apologizes for what she did. But that's the thing, the reconciliation feels like they were both equally in the wrong, and I don't think that's the case.
It isn't. Like, as far as, like, Lucifer getting nerfed was a bad thing, at the very least, Vaggy actually did out of her way to do something that Charlie would probably take, like, half the season to figure out. You know, use her authority and power to do something. We have season 1 as a perfect example for that. Vaggy just decided to take action, like, now, when things were getting really bad. And it's like, nah, you're in the wrong too, which is like, sure, I guess. Fine.
Charlie was much more in the wrong than Vaggy. Vaggy made a poor judgment alone and under pressure. Charlie made multiple poor judgments in a situation where she was surrounded by trusted people telling her to not do it. So I just don't feel the reconciliation here resonating with me as strongly as it could have. Which is a shame because I do think this is a sweet sequence. I'm sure there's discourse about how this is doing sapphic love wrong, but frankly, have you seen the news? I'm happy to see queer romance on screen, period. Overall, this week has me feeling split. So far this season, there's been some stuff I really liked. There's been some stuff that's been kind of aggravating. Some of the jokes really get dragged out too long. Some of them are really funny and snappy. Some of the songs are really good, like Keith David's song in this episode. Some of the songs
Love in a Bottle
like
is
they
awesome.
needed to hit a quota, and so just put music over the dialogue and made it rhyme.
Hotel. That's great. If you parked your car, we'll validate.
Jesus Christ. I honestly am not sure at this point how this season is going to end up, but let's get to the finale and find out. So episode 7, Weapon of Mass Distraction, starts with Lucifer entering a big scary room and seeing an X spotlighted on the floor and going, "Oh gee, guess I better go stand on that." What a great note to open on. Sure enough, he's captured and used to power a giant
he
cannon.
used to
the
be
Vox
so
proceeds to
goofy
turn
and
against
awesome.
Heaven, blasting
Now
open
you're
the
just
gates and
bad.
demanding the surrender within 24 hours. Of course, this is a huge escalation that sends both Charlie's hotel and Heaven into a panic. Charlie's also left reeling when Angel Dust appears on TV and publicly calls out the hotel. Heaven is debating whether they should launch a preemptive strike or still hold out hope for peace. And Vox is so cocky that he mockingly calls Charlie to invite her to his big invading Heaven party.
Yeah, the picture he gave her on her profile is hilarious.
I have to give season 2 this. The storytelling is in fact a lot better than the previous season. It's hard for me to find discrete clips as examples because it's more about how everything is connected together. But
Yeah, come to think of it, Lucifer can still damage Vox's tech, right? Like, he can strip him away from his powers. Sure, sinners would quite literally not be injured. If anything, that's actually perfect. He can just nuke the entire place, and all the sinners would just be standing in the middle of the rubble butt naked. He literally stripped them of all their tech and power. Man, I'm finding workarounds this whole thing just by watching this. Man, poor Lucifer, man. He used to be so cool.
the build up to the climax feels,
The one in the show, that is.
the shape of the plot feels more defined, and it makes for a better viewing experience. Related to this, the animation for this season is also very impressive. I didn't even have a problem with how the first season looked, but there is a lot of great work on display here. Between the art direction and the way things are laid out and how the characters actually move, this
The final action scene is dope.
very strong visually. I'll also say that this season manages to get a handle on the huge cast of characters. Last season, it felt like we kept getting more and more people being piled into an 8-episode run, and it really threw off the narrative's focus. And when I heard there were going to be more additions this season, I was worried the same issue would repeat itself. But no, newcomers Abel and Baxter end up with very right-sized roles, having an actual place in the story while not
Abel was interesting. He tried to be kind of like the middle ground between Emily and the older angel, the Seraphim, but he kind of also doesn't work it that well, at least until the ending, which is kind of like he's trying to fit in his dad's shoes. As for Baxter, he just appeared in like what? The first 2-3 episodes and then near the finale? Like he barely had anything there. Well, then again, he was a new character, but in comparison to, what was it? To something like Mimsy that had an interesting interaction with the others, he felt more abstract. It's weird, right?
crowding out any of the already established cast. Speaking of, if you have a favorite character or a favorite ship in this show, there's at least one moment in this season where they get to shine. If there's anything that Hazbin Hotel is good at, it's presenting ideas and concepts and characters and dynamics that inspire fans to go make stuff. You know what? That's pretty cool. I'm just concerned with whether all those elements cohere into a strong story on its own. Anyways, in the 0 hour, Emily arrives back in the hotel from heaven and rallies everyone to plan a way to take Vox down. That leads us into the season finale, episode 8, Curtain Call. Charlie and Vaggie will accept the invitation to Vox's party and get inside, looking to disrupt the public event. Meanwhile, Baxter and Nifty will go hack into the computer system while Husk and Cherry will go snap Angel out of his hypnosis. Oh, wait a second. When did they find out Angel Dust is being hypnotized by Vox?
Never. It just literally just appears out of nowhere. They just know out of nowhere. It's like, it's not via Angel being forced or something. It's just they know that Vox hypnotized them. It's weird, right?
Okay, I guess you could try to make the argument that they might have figured it out off screen, but Charlie seemed genuinely hurt to see Angel on TV last episode. The process by which they reached that realization could have been a good character moment for everyone involved to see how they relate to Angel. In any case though, having that leap of logic off screen and asking the audience to rationalize it isn't a smooth viewing experience.
Indeed.
Whatever, let's get back on track. So the plan is put in place to try.
If anything, it would have been nice to have like the fact that you could have said Valentino forced him into it and they're just going there to rescue him, not aware of the mind control thing. And he could like reveal it like he did in the ending, going like, Fox forced me into this and I had no control over myself or even the ability to save you. It's best to, stay away from me. Would have been an interesting way to end on.
And find a way to broadcast Serpentius's very much alive face from heaven so that people will see redemption is possible and not resort to war. It's such a vital plan that Emily portals all the way down from heaven so that she can ensure that's hold on. Why do they not just put Serpentius through the portal so that people can see he's alive?
They mention it all the way in like the beginning that apparently like heavenly people can't exit heaven. That was like, I think, the very first rule established after episode 2 and 3, I think, with the Pentious episodes. Like, they quite literally said he can't leave heaven, which is, like, bizarre to me. Like, you're telling me, so you can end up in hell, and possibly because, the angels described that sinners can, in fact, riot and attack heaven. That's a possibility. But the inverse is impossible? It's like so weird as a rule. So demons can go to hell, to heaven, but redeemed people can't descend into hell? It's bizarre. Especially when you consider if you're comparing things with the Bible, what was it? Saint Maria, was it? Went to hell to take away some of the pain that people were experiencing in hell. I remember that awesome story that pretty much put a whole new perspective into that woman's name. It's like, damn, what a badass. Takes all the pain from sinners in hell for a few days so they can relax. Like, talk about a unit of a woman. And yeah, it's like so weird. So you can go to heaven from hell, but you can't do the opposite.
It's not like human souls can't use these portals. Abel uses them all through the season. Why do they need to do this complicated plan to broadcast serpent?
Yeah, but Abel is like, immediately on heaven, whereas, for example, Serpentius is like a normal person who was a sinner. Again, I don't know. It's such a weird rule that they pretty much stated, oh, you can't exit heaven, which is like, okay. Fine, I guess.
Just from heaven, and you could just make him appear right there. Oh no, guys, this finale's kind of off to a shaky start. You know what? At least Charlie came up with a plan this time. Look at her, finally using a little strategy. Of course, they hit a few
in quotation marks.
Both of the other V's each intercept one of the teams in the building, but surely they would have anticipated this. And Charlie has no backup plans, and she's defeated. I'm not kidding. She loses because they had no alternatives in case they ran into literally any resistance. I have to be honest.
I mean, to be fair, their plan was literally just go at it from the spot. Aside from like the one with Cherry and Husk and the one with Baxter and Nifty, everyone else just kind of had like go at it on the spot. It's like the other two just had their objectives. The other one just had to fill in time and stuff like that. It's weird. Nonetheless.
I'm not even mad at this character. I am sad for her. Charlie Morningstar is the weirdest aspect of the entire show, and it's supposed to be her show. For the second season finale.
Like I said, it's weird. Like, at this point, why is she even the main protagonist at this point?
In a row, she finds herself upstaged by someone else. Instead, the day is saved by Alistair. You know how I pointed out earlier that Vox's rapid ascent wouldn't have been possible without Alistair throwing the battle? Turns out that was intentional. Alistair uses the favor he extracted from Charlie last season to get her to admit that Vox is the strongest sinner in hell. That breaks a contract binding Alistair to Rosie, since she's not upholding her end of the bargain. And moments later, Vox sets his hand on Charlie's shoulder, breaking the deal he had with Alistair. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty good payoff to these setups. But
yeah, like I said, aside from the fact that Vox is so stupid that he so easily gets provoked by Alistair just simply poking him with a stick, oh no, it wasn't exactly a bad idea. It's like, through the words of Charlie, who was like one of the 3 powerful authorities in hell, he kind of breaks his contract, which does make sense. And the whole line with not laying any hands on Charlie Morningstar does in fact, like, interpret it as not only just don't beat her or something, just straight up not even laying a single finger on her. It's like, make sure you don't get hit by that technicality.
But again, he's upstaging Charlie. Vox was her rival in this narrative, so this feels a bit anticlimactic. Anyways, Alistair and Vox fight, and Vox takes his big cannon and starts destroying the city, and so nobody likes him anymore, and he loses all his support, and then the other Vs rip his head off. Okay, guess that's a way to defeat him. But oh no, it's going to explode! We need to contain the blast! So everyone does a Care Bear stare around it, trapping the cannon in a massive force field and saving hell.
That is true. It is kind of like a Care Bear stare.
Is honestly one of the weaker ones in the season.
What are you doing here? I'm here to finish what I started.
Yeah, this part with the quote-unquote Abel is kind of fun. Especially when he swears. That was unexpected, but I appreciate it. Everything else, though, yeah, it kind of feels bad. Except near the ending, though. I like the whole "Hear my hope" as everyone said it together. Kind of sounded nice.
Let's get Emily and
No, how can you be so cold-hearted?
This is supposed to be the big climax, and our song falls into the let's just staple music over the dialogue category on the soundtrack. Yeah, I'll be honest, the finale here feels really off. I was praising the overall buildup of the season.
The battle was awesome,
a lot
though.
of the finale feels unsatisfying. The last episode has its moments, to be sure, but it falls apart at too many points for me to like it as a conclusion to these arcs. But back to the wrap-up, all is well that ends well. Except Angel Dust doesn't want to return to the hotel. He's shaken by the fact that he'd been controlled against his will to hurt his friends, and he walks away. Alright, that's a decent tease for the focus of the next season. The dust is settling, the hotel is starting to become legitimately popular. Alright, I guess that's that.
Yeah, the cliffhanger ending.
Oh, are you kidding me? Fine, whatever. The story will be continued.
Reminds me of DuckTales and how they ended.
The tease we had at the end of the first season. It pisses me off when it's just the same damn thing being kicked down the road another year and a half. I hate ending on a sour note like that. Again, yeah, this season is better. Yeah, I think
Hopefully, like, season 3 will finally have her, like, take, action near the end of it all.
Hazbin Hotel is going in the right direction overall, but there's still a lot holding it back from true greatness. I will concede this much though. At long last, Hazbin Hotel is now as good as Hell of a Boss.
That's not a compliment.
Anyways, I'll be back in a few days to talk about Zootopia 2. Bye-bye.
Yeah, overall, not exactly a bad thing. It's just, man. It feels like some of the characters regress down to a worse level, and some of the others just upgraded to a better level. But overall, the story just feels like a ridiculous back and forth. Not even a fun one. At this point, unless season 3 like quite literally gets things finally done, put together, it's not even worth watching the show. Take that as you will. Take that with the gigantic grain of salt boulder I'm throwing at you.